right, girl, good to see you.
Thank you.
Yes, I will manually send you that.
Payment.
Thank you for reminding me because yes, I was on pain meds for so long.
I figured, and I didn't expect it to be happening then, but
It's funny because like I have zero recollection of any conversation about it, but that is how much of February and March are for me. I don't remember it at all. Like it's none of the memories that I formed cemented in my brain. It's perfect because we're talking nervous system today. But between the multiple anesthesias, trauma, pain, sleeping at weird times of the day, opiates, all the things I was on, like stuff did not cement.
right.
So Jason would be like, remember when you said we were going to do, and I'm like, no, I don't remember anything. I honestly don't remember. I had to sit down and write out like a timeline of what happened for the oral surgeon because I was getting confused. And I was like, and then this, and then this. And I was like, well, when did that? Oh, that was before. It's all just like this mush, mush. I told my sister, I'm like, I think this is how our dad thinks. This is how his brain is. It's just mush.
Getting a taste. You're better now.
Yeah, better now. Like,
It's healed.
yeah, it's, I mean, it's not healed. The graft is still exposed. And when I went for my like 2 week checkup after the bone graft, he was like, well, yours is just going to be slow to heal. You just have to brush it. And I'm like, oh, he was like, yeah, you just have to brush it to stimulate your gum and they will close and we'll see you in 3 months. And I'm like, at what point do I come back if it's still exposed? He's like, oh, it'll close. I'm like, have you met me? Like, have you seen, did you read that whole like like nothing went the way it's planned, right? But then he said, you'll probably need a second graft, which they might be able to do at the time of the surgery, replacing the post, but they might not. So we'll find out. I'll go in June and they'll decide whether or not they need to do a totally separate surgery for a second graft or if they can add to the graft when they place the post.
In the summer.
Yeah, there's that. Yep, there's that.
Less to remember.
Yeah, that's for sure. Because that was crazy. Yeah, good to see you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, gang, we have guests coming today. They should be here any minute. They are considering class for next year. So we will be seeing them shortly. It's a mom and 2 kids.
Just so.
Did you see them? Are you planning on coming back next year? Do you know? You don't know? Okay, because I don't have a re-enrollment for you. You're one of my question mark people. Most people I know like I know you guys aren't coming back because I know you're headed to middle school, public middle school, but I don't know about you. So ask your mom if you remember, or make sure, do you know if your mom always reads the weekly email that I send out every week? Okay, because I say in it this time, if your kid's name isn't on this list of re-enrolled, please let me know what's going on, just so I know, because it just kind of helps me to plan what's up. All right, so how was break? Anybody do anything fun for break? Okay, you got run over by a bicycle, I heard. So that's interesting. I don't know that it's fun, but what an experience, right? Yeah. Okay. Did you go anywhere, Evan? No? Did you guys go to Virginia? Or just your mom and your sister? You went camping. Where'd you go camping? Locally or huh? Did you leave the state? No? Okay. All right, cool. Excellent. I don't know why these two lights aren't coming on. She keeps telling me they're not connected. So sorry it's a little darker than usual because I don't know what's going on with them. So anyway, all right. So what we'll do is, oh, is our company here? Are we looking that way because we see, hi, how are you? I'm Danny.
Nice to meet
I'm
you.
Michelle. And you guys are?
Maven.
Say it again.
Maven.
Megan, I love it. And you are?
Maddox.
Maddox, come on in. So, oh, look, are you guys going to squish down and stuff? Y'all can come in and find any space you're comfortable. You can sit in here. You can sit over there. I had some extra copies I grabbed this morning when we go to do lab today. You guys will each have a copy so you know what's going on. And here, Michelle, I'll give this to you so that you can see. So this is our junior lab class lesson, so we're going to go through that first. So this is what's in their binders. You see Evan has his binder out right here. Emerson has hers. And then the lab's in the middle. And then behind it is the lab rats letter lesson. So you can kind of follow along.
Oh, that's okay. Thank you so much.
Yes. So guys, what we do here, Maven Maddox, is we we do our lessons so that we're covering the same subject that the lab rats level is covering. So we have our junior, this is our junior group, and then we have an older group that comes and does class after lab. We do lab all together, everybody together. So it's always the same subject matter, or as close as I can get it. But usually the lab rats level, the older kids, is more in depth. And this one, we kind of touch over stuff and breeze along, because this level class is not like for high school credit, whereas the other one is. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. So who wants to explain to our guests what this is about? Emerson? Yes. When you answer a question, you get a penny. And why do you want a penny? You can get Skittles from the candy machine on the way out. Very good. I have a little brain today, because today is our nervous system. All right. So basically what we cover is kind of like in a public school classroom. It's kind of like what they would cover in a week. We kind of condense it to a day. They do work at home. They have their binders right here. They've already read in their textbooks. They've already worked through and filled through their binder. So when we go through our lesson today, hopefully they should know the answers to the questions I'm going to ask. And then that way it's kind of reinforcing what they've already read. Cool? We good? And sometimes we embed videos in the lessons. There's one that we're probably, one or two that we might skip today just for time for this class, because this class is shorter than the other class, but they have access to them. They know where to find the link to watch it on their own. All right, so we're doing nervous system. Are we ready? Yes, spring break was good. We're back for our last few lessons. We're almost done, right? Almost done. All right, so we're going to talk about, this guy's going to be in my way. Get up there. So the neurons, functions of the nervous system. Here we go. So the nervous system is what is going to collect information about internal and external environment. Internal meaning what's going on inside your body, external what's going outside your body, and it's going to process and respond. Remember that one of the qualifications for something to be a living thing is that it has to be able to respond to a stimulus. Do you guys remember that? So like if you touch a hot stove, what's going to happen? If you accidentally touch a hot stove, what's the first thing that'll happen, do you think? You'll pull your hand back, right? So when you pull your hand back, that's a response. And that's a response that's kind of automatic, as opposed to if I called you a bunch of names, if I called you a bunch of ugly names, Evan, what might be, how might that make you feel, or how might you respond?
That's not.
There you go. That would be a response, right? You might get angry. You might get sad. You might yell at me. You might cry. Not you. You would never cry. No. Okay. All right. So what part of your nervous system consists of all of your nerves and your supporting cells, but not your brain and not your spinal cord? Do you know what you call the rest of that nervous system? It's like the big web. Does anybody know? That's a big word. That's the peripheral nervous system. So if that's peripheral, all of the nerves everywhere in your body except your brain and spinal cord, then what do we call the part of your nervous system that is your brain and spinal cord? Does anybody know? Emerson's looking. You guys are looking. So peripheral means kind of outside. So this would be central. So your brain and your spinal cord, this would be the top of your central nervous system. And then your peripheral is everything else, all of the nerves everywhere else in your body, or your peripheral nervous system. So nervous system impulses are transmitted by cells, and the cells of the nervous system are called neurons. That's what we call those cells. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm wearing neuron mandalas today. You know me in my dorky dresses. I love them. So we have three main types of neurons. So they're going to be sensory, motor, and interneurons. All right, we'll talk a little bit about them. But all neurons have certain features. What's the part of the neuron that is going to contain the nucleus? Does anybody know what that part's called? So we call it the cell body, but sometimes you'll see it called the soma, S-O-M-A. Soma means body. So you can say somebody has, if something is somatic, it has to do with the body. Sometimes you might hear the term psychosomatic, which means like people who think they're sick. Psychosomatic, you're not really sick. Your brain's telling you you're sick, but your body's not really sick. And then we have the part that is receiving impulses. And these look like little fingers that stick out from the cell body. Do you remember what those are called? So those are dendrites. And then we have like what looks like a long tail, right? and that's going to be an axon. And I'm going to show you a diagram. So remember these, cell body or soma, dendrite and axon, because we're going to look at it again with a picture that'll help you. And then they have a membrane that goes along the axon, and it's called a myelin sheath. And it's really important. I'm going to show you why in a minute. I'm going to explain to you why. So here it is. So remember I said there were little fingers that collect information. And what were those called? Who remembers? Connected to the cell body. This is the one that starts with D. What was that? Oh, it's first day back from spring break, and everybody's like, those were your dendrites, right? And then you've seen a cell before, so you know what that thing in the middle of a cell is. What is that? Nucleus. Good. That's your nucleus. All right. And then what did we say we called that main part of the cell? Cell body. Good. Ooh, Maddox, good point too. I heard it. All right. Now, number 4. That right there, I don't expect you all to know it. That's more of an upper level thing. That's called a Schwann cell. Okay. And number 5 is showing what they call a node of Ranvier. So your node of Ranvier and your Schwann cell. So you see your Schwann cell, it looks like, you know those floaties in the pool that you put on your arms? Kind of like that. And then there's another floaty, and in between it is a space. All right. And 6 is nothing. I don't know why it's there. I don't know. And then 7 is showing myelin. Okay, so myelin is what these cells, when you put them all together, compose. So here's why this is really important. What's that long tail called? Starts with an A. Axons. Very good. So, and we said the axon's job is to take messages from the cell and send it out, right? The dendrites are collecting information. The axon is sending it. All right, so it's electrical impulses. So if you were to send an electrical impulse just down that axon, it'll move along, but it'll move faster if you can make it jump, okay? So it's called saltatory motion. If I told you that a kangaroo, a rabbit, and a frog's main form of locomotion is called saltatory motion, what do you suppose that would mean? What do kangaroos, frogs, and rabbits all do? They jump, right? What's a salto in gymnastics or dance, you know? Oh, in Spanish? What is it in Spanish? Jump, right. Okay, so now, we talk a lot about Latin and Greek roots, prefixes, suffixes. They come in a lot. So it's saltatory motion. So do you see those little nodes of Ranvier, right? That's where the jumping happens. It jumps and it lands there. It jumps and it lands on the next node. It jumps and it lands on the next node. And that's considerably faster than if that little message had to just down through the body of the axon. Instead, it goes bing, 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 bing. People with multiple sclerosis, which we'll talk about, which is a disorder of the nervous system, it's a progressive disease, it gets worse over time. Their myelin sheath, composed of all those Schwann cells, is degrading. And because they're not healthy or the cells are dying out, it can't jump. So it'll be like jump, 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 until it gets to the next one. And that's why their impulses are now slower. Makes it harder for them to move sometimes, harder for their body to quickly respond. And that's why, because the jumping's not functioning properly. And at the very end of the axon, number 9, so that's called an axon terminal, terminal meaning end, right? The end of the axon. So at the end of the axon and at the ends of the dendrites, remember when we talked about antigens and antibodies being like lock and key? Remember there was like, yeah, it fit. So it's not quite like that, but it's similar in that these guys are meant to catch molecules, and those molecules are called neurotransmitters. So like dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, they float because they don't actually touch the next neuron. So what you would have here at the end is a dendrite for another neuron. And what you would have over here would be the axon of a different neuron, because it's like axon to dendrite, right? But they don't really touch, there's a space. And in that space, there are these little neurotransmitters that attach and then float back and forth. And like sometimes we give certain pharmaceutical medications to give people like more serotonin or whatever, because it can certainly change the way you behave, the way you feel, all of that's involved. All right, so this is a very quick, brief video, but it shows a little bit how brain development is important for humans at an early age. And I want you to notice when they show these babies, I want you to notice something. I want you to think about your body proportions and then look at the baby's body proportion. What I mean by that is how big is the baby's head in relation to the rest of the baby's body compared to your head and your body? And think about it while you're watching and they're talking about how these babies develop.
A child's experiences during the earliest years of life have a lasting impact on the architecture of the developing brain. Genes provide the basic blueprint, but experiences shape the process that determines whether a child's brain will provide a strong or weak foundation for all future learning, behavior, and health. During this important period of brain development, billions of brain cells called neurons send electrical signals to communicate with each other. These connections form circuits that become the basic foundation of brain architecture. Circuits and connections proliferate at a rapid pace and are reinforced through repeated use. Our experiences and environment dictate which circuits and connections get more use. Connections that are used more grow stronger and more permanent. Meanwhile, connections that are used less fade away through a normal process called pruning. Well-used circuits create lightning-fast pathways for neural signals to travel across regions of the brain. Simple.
Okay, so I want to stop it there and I want to ask you a question. So you guys play instruments, right? You don't play it. You do. What did you play? Guitar. Do either of you play instruments? Okay. So let's say you're learning a song, but you're not reading the music. Somebody just teaches you how to play a couple measures of a song. And you learn it and you're like, cool, now I can play it. And then you don't practice it for the next 2 months. And then they say, okay, play that again. Are you going to remember how to do it? Oh, right. So that's what they just said about how repeated use of a certain neural pathway is going to kind of fortify it. And if you don't, it'll make it stronger. And if you don't use that same pathway, your brain will it's called pruning. It's like you prune a bush, you cut off the parts you don't want. You make a bush that was really crazy looking nice and small and neat. It's exactly what it does. Because we don't need this one. We don't need this one. So that's important. Now, what did you notice about the baby and its head? Is the baby's head the same proportion? Like your head is, maybe this much of your body, right? But how about a baby? Is its head bigger than yours in comparison or smaller? What do you think? Bigger. Yes, way bigger, right? Babies' heads are way bigger in comparison to yours when you're looking at body proportions. It's like a third of their body or a fourth of their body, their head. It's because our brains, as the highest level primate, are big. Now we have little baby chicks outside. When those chicks were born, did they know how to walk? Were they walking? Yeah, pretty much. As soon as they dried off, they were moving, right? They were walking. Did they know how to go find water? Did you? Yeah, you watched them do it. Did they know how to go find food? Yeah. Does an infant human know how to do any of that yet? No. So our offspring is born less developmentally mature than other animals because our brains are so big already and we have so much learning to do. We as humans couldn't carry a baby to term for it to be fully developed. Look at how big your head is. Look at how big your head is. That would not fit out of somebody's pelvis. So that's why we're born earlier in state. We have a lot of care, right? And it has to do with brain development. It takes a lot of care for us to get to the point where we're able to move on. All right, now we're going to move quickly through some things. Brain and spinal cord. All right, that would be right here. So that is your central nervous system, and it's your what again? I just said it was your brain and everybody. Spinal cord, right? Some kinds of information, including some reflexes, are going to be processed directly in the spinal cord. Most of your information is going to go all the way to your brain and back, but certain reflexes are not. They're going to get processed right in your spinal cord. And that's the stuff like, ooh, this was hot. Ouch, I don't want to step on that, right? So a reflex is going to be a quick response. You know how your doctor taps your knee, checks that reflex? You go to the doctor and they tap your knee with a little hammer and you almost kick her in the face. Yeah. So that's a reflex, but there's plenty of other reflexes, like we talked about, touching a hot stove and immediately pulling back. Those are reflexes, right? So they talk about people being left-brained and right-brained, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So your human brain is your main parts of your brain are going to be your cerebrum. That's all this big stuff up here, right? And it's going to control your learning, your judgment, your voluntary actions of your muscles. Voluntary actions, meaning the fact that I'm waving my hand around, I'm not really thinking about it, but it's still voluntary, right? I am not controlling what my muscles and my intestines are doing, right? I'm not controlling the fact that my heart muscles are beating. I'm not voluntarily controlling that. I'm not deciding how often my heart should be thinking about it, right? So your cerebrum has a left and a right. Does anybody know what that's called? We have the same thing on the globe, a left and a right. It's what's a ball? What shape is a ball?
Sphere.
Sphere. What is half? What's a root for half? Hemisphere, right? Half a sphere. So people will talk about whether you're left-brained or right-brained. Not really a thing. Kind of a thing, but not really a thing. Yes, they say that in art. So this video here with Professor Dave, who's literally one of our favorites, especially when we do chemistry. He's really good at stuff. I'm not going to show you this one because it's a longer video, but this is good one to go back and watch. But he's talking about how you're not really left-brained or right-brained. All right, so your outer layer of the cerebrum, the outer layer, is going to be called your cerebral cortex. We see that word a lot, cortex. We've seen that before with, when did we see it? Kidneys, we saw it. And then it's going to process information from your sense organs, and it's going to control your body movements. And we have the cortex is divided into a frontal lobe, temporal lobe, parietal lobe, and occipital lobe. Occipital being the back, frontal being right here. This is where a lot of your thought process, like when you're taking a test, that's your frontal lobe doing stuff, right? And since this is body movements and voluntary movements, if parts of this get injured, that absolutely can impact your mobility. Like, you know, you guys know my daddy's had strokes, right? So my daddy, he's had temporal. His was in his temporal lobe, his left temporal. So his right side, and that's how it works. Your right side controls the left side of your body, and the left side controls the right side of your body. So because his strokes were over here, what side of his body was affected? Yeah, the right side, correct. So his right hand and right leg don't work very well anymore. So then you have something called the limbic system. All right, so this functions to do things like emotion, behavior, and memory. And there's all these little structures that are inside. This is like if you were to cut it open and look. Inside, you see all these little structures that do that. And, oh gosh, that is really in the way. Anyway, the limbic system, sorry, it's going to be, oh no, what happened? There you go. So the thalamus is what we're looking for. That's way at the top. I don't know why that's up. So your thalamus is going to receive messages. That's in here. It's in the middle with all this other, see it in there? It's that blue part, right? That's going to get messages from sensory receptors and send information to the proper part of your brain, your cerebrum, your processing, thinking part of your brain, so that it can process it. So that's like, for example, I smell something. What do I smell? And then it's going to take that sensory information from your thalamus, pop it up to your cerebrum, and your cerebrum's going to go, I recognize that smell as banana bread because I've smelled that before. Yesterday, my mother made banana bread, and I knew she made it before she told me because I could smell it because she's downstairs, and up it came, and it was beautiful, right? And then you have a hypothalamus, and that controls recognition and analysis. You guys don't have this in your lesson. This is for the upper kids. Hunger, thirst, fatigue, anger, body temperature, and it helps coordinate nervous and endocrine systems. So cerebellum, that's this little guy back here, okay? It's blue right there, you see it? Your cerebellum is the second largest region of your brain, your cerebrum being your largest, and your little cerebellum back there, it's your second largest. This has to do with body position, joint position, coordination. Like my friends found this random cat in a parking lot, and it was like stumbling all over and it couldn't hold its head up straight. And they took it to a vet, and the vet was like, it has a cerebellum injury. So because of that, it was like everywhere it went. So they took care of it for a good while. It didn't survive, but they took care of it for a good while. but it walked like a drunken sailor. Like it was all over the place because its cerebellum that's supposed to coordinate those body movements didn't function properly. And then you have your brain stem, and that's this part down here. And it has structures inside of it as well. So it has these different parts of it. And it regulates all of that flow of information. So this little part here, see that blue part called pons? So another one of the strokes my dad had, my dad's a whole story. So my dad had a stroke in his pons, they call it pontine stroke. And he was really lucky because it says right there that your brain stem in general is going to regulate your flow of information between your brain and the rest of your body. So it's like a gateway. He came out of it with like some serious lack of judgment and cognitive intellectual concerns. But a lot of people, the greatest percentage of people that have a stroke, which means like a blood vessel explodes and they lose circulation in that part and that tissue dies, they get what's called locked-in syndrome, which means you can hear, you can see, you can smell, you can taste, you can touch, all that sensory information comes in, but you can't respond in any way. You just lay there. You can't speak. You can't respond in any way. You can't move your body. You are stuck, locked in, which sounds like about the worst thing I can imagine. Like, amazing that he didn't end up like that. And you can be that way until your body just withers. Terrible. That's terrible. Can you imagine being stuck in your body and not being able to respond? Because the part that regulates the connection between your brain and everything else doesn't work anymore. That would be pretty terrible. It'd be like trying to get on the interstate and the on-ramp is just, or like that time when our interstate, we got a giant hole. I don't know if you remember. You guys are probably too little to remember, but do you remember when the interstate, we lost like a whole piece of interstate, nobody could go anywhere, it was just stuck? Yeah. So again, you've got in your cerebellum, your frontal lobe. 3 would be your temporal. Oh, sorry, that was backwards. 2 is parietal, 3 is temporal. 5 is going to be your occipital, and then your cerebellum down there at the bottom, right? All right, so we look at what's inside. All right, so inside you have a cerebrum and a corpus callosum. Remember how I said your right half of your brain controls the left half of your body and vice versa? It's like this. That's where that happens, in the corpus callosum. It is the part that goes whoop, and it allows for that little intersection. So I know a girl who I used to teach who had what's called agenesis corpus callosum. What do you think agenesis means? What does genesis mean? Genesis means like what? Think about it. The beginning. Yes, creation. Okay, creation or formation. Perfect. Okay, that's agenesis. That's genesis. So what would agenesis mean, do you suppose? It means it didn't form or didn't form properly. She lacked a corpus callosum, this thing that has the right and left half of her brain, or lacked most of it. She had a very rudimentary structure there that allowed for just the basic. But because of that, you know how sometimes anybody else have an internal monologue? Meaning like there's a conversation going on in your head all the time. You're talking to yourself. I do it all the time. I'm always talking to myself. If I'm not speaking, I'm thinking, and I'm thinking very verbally. To her, that internal discussion was like 2 separate voices going at the same time. So you'd be talking to her and she'd shake her head because she was trying to like shut up one voice so she could listen to another, because it wasn't a fluid conversation. It was literally like 2 internal monologues competing because the thing that's supposed to link them wasn't there. It was born without it. Interesting, right? Very interesting. So then you've got, after your, hello. I tapped that thing. Hold on. Go back. There you go. So then you've also got your hypothalamus, you've got your brainstem, and your cerebellum, right? Okay, we are going to skip this one because it did what we just did. It just does it in video form. So if you learn better with video form, go back and look at it that way. So you have sensory division. Peripheral nervous system consists of nerves and associated cells that are not part of the central. Is your what 2 parts? Central nervous system is your brain and your spinal cord. So if it's not brain or spinal cord, it's going to be peripheral. So you have all of this, right? And this is all of your stuff that's transmitting information for everywhere else in your body that's not your brain and your spinal cord. So what do you suppose are the receptors, like in your fingers, in your skin, whatever, or inside your body that respond to chemicals. Do you know what they might be called? I'll give you this one because that helps with the rest of them. They're called chemoreceptors. Chemo meaning chemical, receptor meaning receive something. So if that's a chemoreceptor, then what do you suppose we call the ones that respond to light? What's the word for light? A print of light is a photograph. So they would be photoreceptors. Okay, those are like your rods and cones in your eyes. Photoreceptors respond to light. So this one's a little trickier. Responds to touch, vibrations, pressure. Those are mechanoreceptors. What do you suppose they would be called if they respond to temperature? Chemo is chemical, photo is light. Weather receptors, that's a good guess. Weather receptors is a good guess. What is the thing that measures temperature? Thermometer, meter meaning measures. So what's the root you're looking for? Thermo. So those are thermoreceptors. Very good. Excellent. And then this one's easy. Pain receptors respond to tissue injury. Ouch. Like that guy with the little tack right there. You've all experienced pain receptors doing their job. So motor division, which is divided into, this is a somatic and autonomic, just so you know, somatic meaning body. We talked about there's that soma again, see it, right? And it's going to transmit impulses from your central nervous system to your muscles, to your glands. Your somatic nervous system is going to regulate processes that are under voluntary control. Voluntary, right? Meaning you're doing it on purpose, right? Like you're touching your paper there. That's voluntary. You're doing it under your own control. Actions of the somatic nervous system called reflexes occur automatically. We talked about reflexes. Impulses controlling these actions travel on a pathway called a reflex arc. Okay, here's what a reflex arc looks like. So follow the arrows. Ouch, I stepped on a tack. That was bad. Goes up, gets to your spinal cord, doesn't go all the way to your brain for processing because it's a reflex, comes back down, and you lift your foot up and go, you. If you step on something that's sharp, you immediately jerk your foot up, right? You don't even think about it. And because your body is engineered to protect itself from injury, stuff like that, it goes straight to your spinal cord for that reflex. If it had to go from your neurons to your spinal cord, up your spinal cord, to your brain, process, back down your spinal cord, back down your neuron to the responding muscle, that would take much longer, wouldn't it? So it goes straight to your spinal cord and you jerk your foot back really fast. All right, so that is out of frame again. Geez. The autonomic nervous system activates things that are involuntary. So I'm going to just tell you these because I don't think these were in your lesson. These are in the lab rats lesson. So we're talking about sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So this can get a little confusing, but there's an easy way to remember it. So look, your sympathetic nervous system is going to dilate your pupils. It's going to make you stop salivating. It's going to relax your breathing tubes. It's going to inhibit peristalsis. Basically, it's going to shut down your digestion, right? So look at all these things that it's going to do. It's going to secrete adrenaline. What happens if you get adrenaline in your body? What does it do for you? You know what adrenaline does? It amps you up, right? Ooh. Whereas your parasympathetic is going to do all of the opposite things. So this is for fight or flight. This is, uh-oh, I'm in danger. I'm in danger. So I'm not going to spend my energy digesting my meal. I'm just going to stop right now. Just breathe. Suspend animation. And I'm gonna accelerate my heartbeat because I need more blood pumping to my muscles because I need them to move fast. I need to run away. There's a lion coming to eat me, right? I'm going to run. This slows you down. So the way to remember is the sympathetic nervous system is sympathetic to your plight. It goes, oh, you're about to get eaten. I'm going to help you out here, right? Whereas your parasympathetic does the opposite. So what we tend to call it is rest and digest is your parasympathetic. Fight or flight is your sympathetic because it's sympathetic to the fact that you're about to get eaten. So it's going to like help you out, right? All right. So that's an overview flowchart of everything we just did. This one I'm going to leave for you guys to watch later. You know how to watch it later if you want to, because now we're going to talk about accidents and injuries. All right, let's talk. ouch. See all those different brain scans? See all the little spots that don't look right? Those are all injuries to the brain. And that can occur internally. Like I said, my dad has had strokes. That's a brain injury that he didn't, it's not like he smacked his head against something. One of his blood vessels just exploded and started bleeding everywhere, right? Which means not only do you get like pressure from blood, but you also don't, those parts of your brain that is supposed to serve don't get oxygenated, right? So they get starved for oxygen. So here we go. We love these guys that give these nice little short videos. So he's going to tell you, this is a neurosurgeon, all right? So let's see, what does he say here?
I'm absolutely avoided for being a nurse surgeon in a trauma. Without a doubt, alcohol is number one. So many cases I see when I'm on a trauma call are related to that. Staying out late would be number two. Nothing good happens after midnight. If you could see all the people who get in fights in bars late at night or out carousing or walking out in the middle of the night, stay at home, go home early. Number three, not wearing your seatbelt. Whether you're the driver or the passenger, always wear your seatbelt. I see so many injuries that could have been avoided if people would just put on their seatbelts. Number four, not paying attention to your surroundings. I can't tell you the number of people, especially elderly people that I see who come in, who accidentally fall downstairs and break their neck and end up being paralyzed. Really pay attention to what's around you when you're out there.
Okay, good advice. I didn't expect the don't stay out late advice, but that's actually, when you think about it, pretty good advice. Nothing good happens after midnight. All right, here's another neurosurgeon.
There's
Spine surgeon.
things I would never do. I would never ride a motorcycle on a highway unless I was trying to donate my organs. I wouldn't let my kid marry an orthopedic surgeon. I would never die.
That's a joke.
You can't see the bottom. I would not do stem cell therapy in someone's spine. The reason for that is there's no good, high impact, peer reviewed studies that show this helps patients. Now, if you're a billionaire, you're not wrong to go ahead and throw your money at this. No one wants to have spine surgery or disc degeneration. I'm just saying there's no studies that show this actually helps. And the number one thing I would never do as a spine surgeon is I would never operate with at least 4 to 5 of my emotional support reps. These are highly trained specialists who have spent minutes to hours training how to compliment the spine surgeon throughout the case and tell him how great a job he or she is doing.
You're doing a great job.
I would absolutely.
So they have a sense of humor. Doctors do have a good sense of humor. So what kind of damage do drugs and alcohol do on your nervous system? Okay, you remember how we said you have your little dendrites and they're collecting information coming in from axons, and they've got those neurotransmitters in that space, dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, that type of thing. All right, they mess up, drugs and alcohol bind to the receptor that is supposed to accept your serotonin or your dopamine that's supposed to collect here, but instead your drug or alcohol has bound to that spot. So now that neurotransmitter can't get to where it needs to be to do its job. So that has different impacts depending on which neurotransmitter is blocked or in what part of your body it's blocked. But over time, if you continually expose yourself to that substance, it's almost going to scar that spot on that neuron, and then it's just not going to function like it's supposed to anymore. And it can cause the neuron to die because it's not able to do its job properly, and it can die because of that. So this is one reason drugs and alcohol are good, right? And this one I have to show, this is necessary. So there's what your brain looks like before and after drugs. See your normal brain at the top, all those colors, it's firing. Those are all neurons that are doing their job. Somebody used cocaine for 10 days, much less firing, right? And then below it, cocaine for 100 days. That's kind of weird firing, right? Now, anybody Gen X knows this by heart. This was the ad, and it's necessary just for cultural purposes for you to have seen it, right? This is what we all grew up with in the just say no to drugs era. This is a dad giving advice on drugs.
Is there anyone out there who still isn't clear about?
You remember this, don't you?
Okay, last time. This is your brain. This is drugs.
Exactly. Your facial expression is perfect.
Any questions?
That is probably one of the most famous commercials from the 80s, by the way. This is your brain on drugs. You can tell your parents now you've seen the egg frying one. So, as we said, alcohol and drugs can damage the dendrites and that they can repair. Sometimes they can repair if you stop using the chemical, whatever the substance is. If you stop using it, you have to give your body time to repair itself. And for a nervous system, it takes a long time. So let's talk about diseases. We have things like Lou Gehrig's disease, Huntington's, multiple sclerosis, which we talked about with that saltatory motion doesn't function properly in those people. Alzheimer's, cerebral palsy, epilepsy. There's a video with all of these in it. We're going to show that at the end because it's a longer video. We'll come back to it in a minute. So if you have 100 billion or so neurons, what's the problem with some of them dying? Like you got 100 billion. Who cares if you lose a few, right? Well, cells multiply all the time in your body. We've learned this, right? Your skin's constantly replacing itself. You know, other cells in your body are constantly replacing themselves. Neurons don't necessarily do that. It depends on the type of neuron. Some of them do not. This is why, okay, what's your earliest memory? What's the earliest thing you remember, Emerson? Having a tea party with your dad. The fact that you still remember that today means that those neurons that make that memory have not replaced themselves. They're still there, the same neurons, right? So you losing them is bad because you can't get them back. You would lose that memory, right? And that a memory is one thing, but knowing how to walk or speak or any of those other things, that's a much bigger deal than forgetting about a tea party, right? So some of them don't replace themselves. Some of them have no division. Some of them are limited in adults. This is why kids learn better than adults. We have a limited ability to create new neurons. Like this, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. There's truth to that. You can, but it's a whole lot harder. And then there's use it or lose it, which is what we said before with like if you learn a piece of music and then you don't practice it, you're going to lose it, right? Because you have to constantly practice it to pave that neural pathway. Now, here's something interesting, okay? That is true for thought processes. So if you get up every morning and you think, my life sucks, everything's terrible, I don't have any friends, I don't have any fun, and you say that to yourself every day, you're paving that neural pathway. You're making it faster and easier for your brain to come to the end conclusion that everything's awful because you have done that every day. If you get up every morning and you go, thank God I'm alive, it's a beautiful day, I'm going to learn something new, I've got a family that loves me, I've got friends, and you do that every day, you're going to pave that pathway. And your ultimate conclusion that life is great at the end of that pathway, there it'll be. So people that are pessimistic all the time are not helping themselves. They're actually making it easier to be a pessimist over time. So that's a use it or lose it situation. And then there's neuroplasticity, which is like your ability to learn new things. And you're much more plastic or flexible as kids than you will be when you get older. Do you think everybody reacts the same way to drugs and alcohol? Different substances? Definitely not. Definitely not. Some people get aggressive. Some people just fall asleep. This is why different pharmaceuticals for psychological disorders or whatever, some work for some people and don't work for other people. Sometimes you have to try different medications to find out what works for you. And that's because everybody's system is a little different. And that can be because of chemistry in the brain, physical differences in the brain, and then your mental health history and what you've experienced, what you've learned. Definitely, what you've learned can impact how you react, right? If you have a person that's always been mean to you every time you've seen that person, and that person comes in a room, you may get an uneasy feeling before they even speak, right? Because you've learned. So, do all organisms react the same to all stimuli? No. The doorbell rings, I go, oh, somebody's here. If the doorbell rings, Ozzy goes, someone's here, and all the way to the door, right? Because he sees it as a threat. I see it as someone who's here to bother me now, right? Right? So definitely, we don't all react the same. So, also, which of your activities use your neurons? What do you think? Which of your? All of them, right, Emerson? All of them. All of your activities use your nervous system. Voluntary, involuntary, all of the above. All right, this guy's fascinating, and then we'll go back and I'll let you watch the other video on diseases. Actually, yeah, I think there'll be time. All right, this dude.
Firefighters pause for exactly 3 seconds at every doorway before entering a burning structure. The pause looks like tactical assessment, but fire department psychologists discovered it serves a neurological purpose. The 3-second doorway stop allows the nervous system to complete one stress cycle before entering the next threat environment. Rushing through doorways stacks stress responses. Pausing lets each wave of activation peak and begin to fall. Fire academies now teach conscious doorway pauses as nervous system management. Veterans noticed they did this instinctively. The training formalized what experienced firefighters' brains figured out naturally. Your brain responds to doorways as environments transitions. Pausing at thresholds between stressful contexts let your system recalibrate before the next demand. 3 seconds of stillness before entering the meeting room, the difficult conversation, overwhelming situation. The neural reset protocol includes.
So that's pretty
transition
interesting,
techniques
right?
that prevent stress from stacking throughout your day.
All right, now we'll go back and I'll show you this one. If it will actually, come on, there you go. So this is for nursing, and it shows you, oh, we got an ad. Gotta love ads.
You can give everything you've got.
Hey everyone, Nurse Mike here from SimpleNursing.com. Today we're tackling a quick review of the major neurological disorders, including Parkinson's, MS, MG, and ALS. We're breaking it all down, making it simple, and packing it with memory tricks to make sure it sticks. Oh, and if you're a Simple Nursing member, be sure to grab these 2 study guides located in the membership area. And let's lock this information in. All right, brains on, and let's get started. Focus on the highlighted ones below, since these are the most tested. So the neurodiseases that affect the CNS, the brain and spinal cord, we have MS, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and Huntington's. And for those that affect the PNS, the peripheral nervous system, we have MG, ALS, and GB, that Guillain-Barré syndrome. Now, a quick side note and a big test tip here. No drugs or interventions will cure these conditions. We can only treat the progression. So a key term to know is promote independence. For all progressive neurodisease patients, we teach never do all the ADLs or the client. And for gait training, we preserve independence as long as possible. So first, we always teach gait training, then offer a cane, then a walker, and then very last, a wheelchair.
There are places you want to go. This has to be there. Passion brings you now, and we made a pass for it. Epic passes on.
And-
Did it have a band?
Yes, Becca did.
Now let's break these down one by one in a rapid fire sequence. First up is MS, our multiple sclerosis. So the memory trick is MS, myelin sheath destruction from that autoimmune disease where the body attacks itself, resulting in MS, muscle spasms, and stiffness. Now we teach the clients to balance exercise and rest and avoid the 4 S's, which trigger flare-ups. Typically with all autoimmune diseases, anything that can irritate the body can cause an immune response. So avoid stress, like exercise, surgery, or even injury. The big one here is don't overdo exercises. So no marathons or intense workouts. The second S is for sickness and sepsis. We teach clients to stay healthy and free from infection. The third S is smoking. We use smoking cessation. And then very lastly, sun and extreme heat. So avoid the hot tub, baths, and saunas that are extremely hot. Now for pharmacology, we use IVIG, which kind of acts like bait, so the body attacks this substance instead of the nerves in autoimmune diseases. And then very lastly, cyclosporin, we call cyclosporin, since it spares the body from attacking itself with autoimmune disease. Next up is MG, myasthenia gravis, which we call dryasthenia gravity, since the body gets really dry and weak, like loads of gravity weighing down on the muscles, causing droopy eyelids. Now, MG is also an autoimmune disease where the body attacks acetylcholine receptors. So we get less acetylcholine, so just think less secretions, and we end up with a very dry body. Now, we teach clients to also avoid the 4 S's to avoid those triggered flare-ups. And for pharmacology, we treat the dry by giving cholinergics, which add secretions to the body. So these end in
Yeah, hang on.
stigmine like neostigmine.
Oh, wait.
So just think
All right, so we're gonna have to end that there, but you can watch the rest of it on your own. Actually, can you tell everybody come on in?
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, we're gonna get ready for lab. Pull this down. All right.